Unyielding, the human enigma. The Galactic Concord, a council of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, had always kept a wary eye on younger species. Typically, new entrants to galactic society were watched for a few centuries, their development monitored to ensure they didn't disrupt the delicate balance of peace. Humans, though, a small, relatively new species from a backwater planet, were different. When humanity discovered FTL travel, the Council assumed their integration would be smooth. They were frail by galactic standards, with short lifespans, minimal natural weapons, and no advanced biological advantages like telepathy or regeneration. Yet within a single galactic century, humanity had spread like wildfire. Planets that were previously deemed inhospitable or uninhabitable suddenly bore human colonies. It wasn't their technology that worried the Council. It was their tenacity. The first incident came from the edge of galactic space. A mining outpost owned by the Uriath Consortium, a species known for their towering forms and mastery of industrial technology, had experienced what they called a human infestation. The outpost sat on a barren moon with gravity barely enough to hold a loose atmosphere. The Uriath had abandoned it after deeming it too resource poor to warrant further investment, and yet humans had turned it into a thriving colony. The report detailed the conditions: lethal radiation levels, no native food sources, bone-crushing gravity for humans, and temperatures that fluctuated by hundreds of degrees. Somehow the humans had survived. No, they hadn't just survived. They had thrived. They engineered machines to shield themselves, farmed synthetic crops in biolabs, and dug into the moon's core to extract what the Uriath had missed. What kind of creatures would choose to live there? One council member had asked. But the incidents didn't stop. More abandoned worlds, more impossible feats of survival. Humanity didn't just endure, they adapted, persisted, and succeeded where logic dictated they should fail. The Council grew concerned enough to test humanity's limits. A proposal was made by the Syndralits, a coldly logical species known for their experiments in social and psychological behavior. The plan was simple: create an artificial challenge that would test whether humanity's successes were luck or an innate characteristic. A derelict station was constructed near a neutron star, its orbit precariously close to the point of destruction. Supplies aboard the station were sabotaged to fail within 2 weeks. A distress signal was subtly sent toward human space, baiting them to investigate. The Council watched. When a human vessel arrived, they followed protocol, boarding the station, assessing the situation, and sending a transmission requesting aid. The Council's plan was for the humans to retreat when the situation proved too dire. Any other species would have cut their losses. Instead, the humans stayed. In the first week, they patched the station's leaking oxygen system with insulation stripped from their own ship. In the second week, they salvaged what they could from the failing generators and rigged an improvised power system using leftover parts. By the third week, they were constructing a new propulsion system to stabilize the station's orbit. "They're going to fail," one council scientist said confidently. "The neutron star's radiation will kill them before they get close to succeeding." But humanity didn't fail. The crew engineered a shield out of spare parts that defied explanation, blocking radiation levels that would have liquefied the organs of most species. Against all odds, the station's orbit was stabilized. Then they began converting it into a permanent outpost. By the time the Council intervened, the humans had already begun growing crops inside hydroponic bays and setting up permanent living quarters. When asked why they hadn't fled, the human captain replied, "Flee? No one else was coming to fix it. What's the point of running if the problem stays?" The Council was stunned. This wasn't logic. It was obsession. Stories of human stubbornness began to circulate across the galaxy like dark legends. A Xantharian diplomat recounted a war game in which humans had been placed against overwhelming odds. They had been instructed to hold the line for 6 hours to simulate a strategic retreat. The humans had instead held the line for 6 weeks, refusing to retreat until they had turned a losing battle into a decisive victory. "They wouldn't stop," the Xantharian said, still visibly shaken. "We had to order a ceasefire. They would have fought until the last one of them was gone." Then there was the famous incident of the Osiris-Fief cataclysm, when a planetary terraforming operation spiraled out of control. A tectonic disaster began ripping the planet apart. The Council recommended immediate evacuation. No species had ever survived such a scenario, but the humans refused to abandon their work. While the planet's crust cracked and molten lava consumed entire colonies, the humans devised an unprecedented plan. They detonated a series of controlled explosions to redirect the planet's tectonic plates. Against all predictions, it worked. The humans saved the planet, their colonies, and remarkably, continued terraforming operations. The Council's shock grew as reports flooded in. A human scientist who spent 42 years trying to decode an alien language until they succeeded. A lone human explorer marooned for a decade on a rogue planet who managed to not only survive, but chart its terrain in case others ever found themselves stranded there. Even their criminals were terrifying. Stories of human prisoners tunneling through miles of solid rock with nothing but scraps of metal made the rounds in council security meetings. The breaking point came during a summit to discuss human integration into the Galactic Concord as a permanent member. The council chambers were filled with towering forms of elder species, many of whom had ruled the stars for millions of years. Ambassador Nyla, the human representative, stood before them, a diminutive figure compared to the 12-foot-tall Crixian speaker or the ethereal glow of the alien emissary. Despite her size, her presence was commanding. "Why do you fear us?" she asked simply. The Crixian speaker hissed, his voice resonating like grinding stone. "We do not fear you. We fear what you represent. No species has ever survived as you have. You defy logic. You embrace chaos. You thrive on impossible odds. You persist." Nyla smiled faintly. "Isn't that what life is about? To persist?" The alien emissary floated forward, their shimmering form dimming as they spoke. "It is not persistence we fear. It is your refusal to yield. Even when defeat is inevitable, you will not stop. This tenacity, it is not natural. It is dangerous." The chamber grew silent. Nyla's expression turned serious. "Dangerous to whom? We don't seek conquest. We seek survival. We don't endure because we want to dominate. We endure because we have no choice." The council deliberated for hours after Nyla left the chamber. Old grudges and fears surfaced. The Krell remembered ancient battles against humanity's ancestors, battles they had thought erased from time. The Uriath remembered losing entire worlds to human settlers who refused to be driven off. The council understood, now more than ever, that humanity's unmatched tenacity wasn't just a trait, it was a force of nature. When the decision was finally made, it wasn't unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity would be allowed to join the Concord under strict observation, their worlds and colonies constantly monitored. As Nyla received the news, she nodded knowingly. She didn't need their approval. Humanity would persist either way. In the council chamber, long after the humans had departed, the Crixian speaker addressed the assembly. "They call it tenacity, but I have seen it up close. It is more than persistence. It is obsession. It is madness wrapped in resolve." The alien emissary spoke quietly. "Perhaps it is not their madness we fear, but the reflection of our own complacency." The Crixian hissed again. "Let us hope their tenacity does not one day turn against us all." The chamber fell silent as the members dispersed, each of them haunted by the same thought. Humanity would not stop. Not for them. Not for anyone.